Welcome back for another episode as we continue to push our way through the NFC South. This is 8 divisions in 8 weeks on the Talking Sunday podcast. But first, don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment below. You can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at the Talking Sunday handle. Now hop in your airboats because we're taking a ride down in the swamps of New Orleans. Before we get started, anyone that knows me knows that I am not a fan of this team at all. And it's nothing against the city of New Orleans. The city is great. The people are great. The food is unbelievably good. And if you haven't been, I highly recommend you go. Everything about this team just irks me, like blood boiling. It's unhealthy for me to watch games sometimes. Or it could just be my personal vendetta against them as an Eagles fan. From their ping-pong style offense, slants galore to Michael Thomas, or the complete arrogance from their head coach Sean Payton, me and the Jazz boys just don't get along. Now I keep telling everyone that this team is cursed, and maybe people will finally start to listen. And this story starts way back in 2009 when the team sold its soul during Bountygate for a Super Bowl ring. Hope it was worth it. Since then, the team has made the playoffs 6 times, but has lost every single one of them in some odd way. In 2010, with the Saints only down 4 with 3 minutes and 38 seconds left to play, running back Marshawn Lynch unleashes probably the most epic run of all time, notoriously known as Beastquake, to basically seal this game off. In 2011, with 1 minute and 37 seconds left to play and up by 3 points, quarterback Alex Smith and the 49ers drive down the field to score a touchdown with only 10 seconds left on the clock. In 2013, after playing uncharacteristically terrible all game long, the Saints had a golden opportunity to win the game in comeback fashion but came up short. In 2017, with 10 seconds left on the clock, the Vikings were down to their last play on their own 39-yard line with no timeouts. A miscommunication and tackle in the secondary leads to a 61-yard touchdown to Stephon Diggs, sending the Saints home once again with what is now known as the Minneapolis Miracle. In 2018, down 1 on 3rd and 10 with 1 minute and 49 seconds left in the NFC Championship game, the referees missed a blatant pass interference call that would have resulted in a first down. New Orleans would have been able to almost run the clock completely out before kicking a field goal, leaving the Rams with an impossible chance to come back. But we all know what happened next. In 2019, as more than a touchdown favorite, the Saints hosted the Vikings this time around. With expectations of Kirk Cousins coming up short in big games, he outperforms Brees and scores a game-winning touchdown in overtime, which also had a controversial offensive pass interference no call. This right here is the definition of being cursed. They sold their soul for that Super Bowl, and the voodoo gods are now holding them accountable. I mean, they literally live in the voodoo capital of the world. Last year, the Saints burned through the league, finishing the season 13-3 as predicted, even though Drew Brees went down for 5 weeks with a thumb injury. The Saints offense ranked number 1 in the league last season and incredibly last in the turnover department. Having a high productive offense is always great, but not turning the ball over is probably more critical when it comes to winning football games. Look no further than division rivals Tampa Bay. Drew Brees ranked out as the second best quarterback in the league last season, only behind Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill? Is that right? Interesting. Brees still proved that he is highly effective and accurate while making quick decisions. If you watched Brees play last season, you can notice he doesn't quite have that same oomph on the ball anymore. He forced many throws downfield that should have been intercepted and didn't show up on the stats. Now, we can't talk about the Saints offense without talking about Mr. Slants, Mr. Slants, Mr. Slants. Michael Thomas crushed the league with 149 receptions, going for 1,725 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns. That's 45 more receptions and 331 more yards than any other wide receiver in the NFL. With the departure of safety Von Bell, who was considered one of the better safeties in the league, the Saints welcomed back Malcolm Jenkins from the Eagles. Although 32 years old and in decline, Jenkins is a nice quick fix since the team is and has been in a win-now mode. In the absence of Brees, backup quarterback Teddy Bridgewater proved that he still might be capable of starting and landed a gig in the division with the Carolina Panthers. The Saints raised the bar by bringing in another quarterback from the division to back up Brees with Jameis Winston. Outside of Michael Thomas, New Orleans was slightly weak at the wide receiver position, hence the constant feed over and over and over and over to Michael Thomas on the slant. With the traveling and aging speedster Ted Ginn Jr. taking his talents to Chicago, the Saints went ahead and signed my favorite signing by the team in Emmanuel Sanders. Sanders was an outstanding signing even at the ripe age of 33. Manny is as smooth as they come and can still create separation among the best of them. We saw him almost instantly improve the 49ers passing offense until he was hampered by a rib injury down the stretch. And that will be the biggest issue for Sanders as he hasn't been able to stay healthy over the past 3 seasons. If Sanders can keep his body in check, I really believe this offense is built perfect for him to thrive in, and we may see his best season since 2016. Now, almost all of Saints Nation wanted the team to draft a quarterback that will eventually replace legendary Drew Brees. With Jordan Love still on the board, the team opted out and instead decided to draft center Cesar Ruiz from Michigan. This was odd considering they just drafted center Eric McCoy last year, who did a fine job. Look for Ruiz to slide into the right guard position and beef up an offensive line unit that was already ranked in the top 5. New Orleans also drafted a highly ranked out prospect in linebacker Zach Bond from Wisconsin and tight end Adam Troutman, who was my favorite pick from the Saints. NFL scouts pegged Troutman as the closest thing that exists to a complete tight end in this year's draft class. If the Saints possibly added another tight end with superior talent, could the days of Jimmy Graham-esque dominance be on the horizon? Look, even though I don't like this team, I'm fair. This team is stacked top to bottom throughout the whole roster and only got better in free agency and the draft, and injuries are probably the only thing that will slow this team down. The decline of Drew Brees' arm strength and throws downfield will be the obvious question heading into this year. But I'm predicting that this will be Drew Brees' last season with the Saints, as the reins will be handed over to quarterback Taysom Hill. You didn't really think it was going to be Jameis Winston, did you?
How many people want to eat a W tonight?
Look, I keep saying it and fans don't want to listen or believe it, but Taysom Hill is the future quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. Sean Payton has even hinted at this when he compares him to a quarterback you all may have heard of before. That's right, 3-time Super Bowl champ quarterback Steve Young. When discussing the matter, Sean Payton has been quoted saying, "If you look back through Steve's career, people don't remember his time before he came into the NFL. You have a very athletic player that I think advanced when he got to San Francisco, and he always had great ability with his legs." And perhaps there's a similar path here, as Steve Young had to wait 4 years behind 4-time Super Bowl champion Joe Montana before he took over. Now, here's an excerpt from Sports Illustrated. Payton has frequently told the story of how the Saints were 11th on the waiver claim list after the 2017 preseason and hoped no team ahead of the Saints would put a claim in for Hill, who at the time was a Green Bay Packer. Payton also placed a first-round tender on the quarterback when he became a restricted free agent this offseason to ensure that no team would pry him away from the roster. And why a first-round tender? Seems a little extreme for somebody that's supposed to be a third-string quarterback, wouldn't you say? Nothing changes here for the Saints in 2020. As long as Drew Brees is the quarterback and Sean Payton is calling the plays, the Saints will continue to run like a well-oiled machine and dominate the regular season. It's almost not even fair. They can go head-to-head with the best of the best in the league, and they can flat out cook up the bad teams like a spicy pot of gumbo. With the division being tougher, I got the boys from the Bayou finishing in first place in the NFC South with an 11-5 record as a playoff team. The only question that remains is if they can break the bad voodoo that's plagued them over the years and march their way to another Super Bowl before the sun sets on Drew Brees. The odds remain high, but there's just some gods you just can't mess with. And Sean, you built your mausoleum, and you just might have to lay in it.